you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Jaime Fuego here.
And this is another one of those times where we are covering a non-horror property. So before anyone gets upset at us in the comments, not horror. Yeah, okay, we're acknowledging it.
We
right
always
up
get
front.
them, which is funny.
But honestly, I wanted to cover this, you guys, because we are going to be talking about The Flash, the brand new DC movie. And before we get into things, guys, I just want to let you know we are not going to be overlaying footage of the trailers over this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link to the trailers in the description box down below. So if you want to pull up the trailer and just have the footage going while we talk, feel free, but I just don't want to deal with the copyright issues or anything along those lines. So this is going to be just a discussion between Fuego and I, but feel free to pull up those trailers and watch the footage while you listen to us if you so desire.
Cool.
And we have covered a couple of other DC movies, even in the Snyderverse, and so I've actually been looking forward to this movie for a long time.
Same.
Despite
all of the
my interest definitely waned the more that the lead actor decided to get a little crazy with themselves. But nonetheless, I was one of the people that actually was buying the Flashpoint comics off the rack when they came out back in 2011.
I was going to ask you how far back that was.
Yep, 2011. It's crazy. Okay. You know what the comic in issue number 2, the top of issue number 2, what it's actually advertising?
I don't know.
The Green Lantern movie.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, there's a big banner at the top of the comic. It's like Green Lantern coming soon with Ryan Reynolds coming at you.
Different iterations of the DC property.
Yep,
right.
Indeed. But this is, so the reason I bring up Flashpoint is because Flashpoint is the key comic series that this movie's story is based on, although they take a lot of liberties with this film. So we're going to get into this movie and we're going to talk about it like we talk about our normal horror reviews, where we talk about the overall thoughts, then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, the filmmaking, all of that good stuff in turn. And I'm interested to know Fuego's opinion first, because Fuego doesn't have the attachment to the original material that I do.
I do not.
So this is very much the reverse of a Stephen King review that normally happens on the channel, where Fuego has a particular affinity and or aversion to something that he has previously predisposition
Big time.
based on reading the property prior to. Same with me on this one. So Fuego, what are your thoughts on The Flash?
Yeah, and it goes even less than that because I didn't watch the CW show that I know was wildly popular.
I did. I watched the first about 6 seasons.
Yeah. I still remember the Kevin Smith reaction of him crying to
that first. Well, that's the thing. That first, the first and last episode of that first season touched on the Flashpoint storyline, as far as him going back to save his mom.
Yeah, and I know that show is about to end its run, and so it's some people have said it wore out its welcome, whatever. But
I'm enjoying the highlights I'm seeing on TikTok, even though I haven't watched the last 3 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thoughts on this one? Even though we didn't end up talking to Patrick, but shout out to Allied for getting us into the door
shout
for
out
this.
to Allied and Patrick for inviting us, even though we're predominantly a horror channel.
Yeah. He was nice enough to invite us to this, and so my prepared statement for him is what I'm going to say right now, is that I genuinely
I forgot about that.
I genuinely had fun with this film, but I definitely didn't love it or anything. The biggest thing for me is that the real hero of this film is Andy Muschietti, the It and It Chapter 2 director, because this is a sight to behold. It's a beautiful film, awesomely directed. His work with his DP and the effects team made something really special from a visual standpoint. But what I will say is that, much like The Flash himself, this film speeds through so many different concepts and ideas and things like that it doesn't really allow them to develop very well, and for that reason they don't really resonate very well.
A lot of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It feels
Batman is called
incoherent
upon because he is a detective, and then we never see him detect anything.
The film is borderline incoherent, man, and for that reason, despite being a fun ride of sorts, it felt kind of bland to me, man.
That's actually a really good way to put it. If this film could be likened to anything, it would be a Universal Studios roller coaster
Big time.
that doesn't
Yeah.
bother giving you story behind the things it's showing you, but it shows you a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, even the mom stuff didn't really feel like it had much weight here,
No.
man. You know, like the
No.
motivation of Barry going back. And another thing I'm going to say is that, you know, I liked Ezra as a supporting character in Justice League for like a comic relief sort of supplemental sort of thing.
He was also a supporting character in this one as comic relief.
I guess I wasn't too hot on the performance, and that has nothing to do with my predisposition about their antics outside of the screen.
So,
I didn't
yeah.
like him very much in this.
That's fair. Well, we'll get to that in acting.
Yeah, exactly. But so overall thoughts for somebody who's much more familiar with the character, the property, so on.
So I thought, I mean, just kind of the comparison that I just made is a perfect encompassing of my thoughts on the film. It was a fun ride to watch, but it was very shallow. Even though it was attempting to have the emotional weight of the story. I personally have seen the story done now 3 different times, because there was the original comics in 2011. There was the Flash TV show that touched on this whole thing and did the should I or should I not save my mom and possibly screw up the timeline. That was dramatically done 1,000,000% better on the show, in my opinion. And then there was the Flashpoint Paradox animated movie that DC put out in probably 2015, 2016.
I didn't watch it, but I remember
I've been
its
keeping
release,
up on all
yeah.
DC animation. DC animation continues to be really outstanding animation. Like DC has
You've
had,
actually said that they trump Marvel as
Yeah,
far as their animated
absolutely,
stuff goes.
they
Yeah.
very much do. But Marvel trumps in the live action, and unfortunately, I think that this
This was
film
good.
continues in that tradition of not living up to the fun stuff that Marvel has been putting out. Most recently, Across the Spider-Verse, you know, which was a
Everything is
multiverse
gonna-
movie done
everything is gonna
in
pale,
its peak form.
Everything is
you know
going to
what I
pale
mean?
compared to Across the
It is,
Spider-Verse
it
at
is,
this damn
it is.
point. You know, we've been spoiled, as you said. when
So
we
yeah,
walked
my
out of the
overall
theater.
thoughts were it was a fun movie, but it was a puddle deep movie, and that prevents a certain level of appreciation, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah.
So story-wise, I'll just run into it real quick, and it's about Barry Allen, aka the Flash, who, by the way, my personal Flash was Wally West. That was the Flash that was proper when I started reading in the 90s. And then they brought Barry back because, you know,
So was Barry the original?
Barry
and then
was
Wally
well,
was
yes,
like the-
Barry was the original, but there was
I've
a
seen the different
Flash
costumes and-
before that, just like there was a Green Lantern before Hal Jordan that was
yeah.
a classic Green Lantern in Alan Scott.
Yeah.
There was a classic Flash named Jay Garrick that wore a silver hat with
that
lightning bolts on the side.
Was that the dude I
that
saw in-
maybe I might have that you know,
I remember the scene.
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm
Was that
just
the
saying.
one that they used in Kingdom Come, if I remember correctly?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay,
yes,
that's
yes,
the
yes.
design
Jay
of that.
Garrick.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was unable to hold still in
Yeah,
Kingdom
yeah,
Come. He was
yeah.
constantly moving, but he had that silver hat.
Kingdom Come's the
Jay Garrick is the Kung Lao of the Flashes.
Yes.
Any Mortal Kombat fans are gonna love that. But talking about the story, it is about Barry Allen, who realizes at some point that he is able to maneuver his way through time, and he is dealing with the fact that he has a father that has been locked up for many years for the death of his mother.
Ron Livingston, who I did not know was in this movie.
I
That
forgot
nice
that he
little-
was, and
Yeah.
that was nice. I've loved him since Office Space, obviously.
Office Space, Swingers, yeah. He's
Yeah,
awesome, dude.
he was actually in a To the Moon show or something like that at one point. But nonetheless, that's the basic story, and Barry is trying to hold out hope that his dad will be released because he doesn't believe that his dad had to do with it. And at some point, after he realizes he can travel in time, he decides to go back and try and fix things. And then what happens after that is the consequences of this decision. And that's in the first 20 minutes of the movie, basically, 20, 30 minutes. So that's not spoilery.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily all in the trailer, but that's the story of the movie.
Interestingly enough, though, if I can jump in, man,
Yeah.
is that they show so much of the third act in
They
the
show
trailers.
a lot
I
in
was
the trailer.
really surprised
A
at how
lot
much
in the
it is-
trailer, yeah.
how much is spoiled, you know, as far as like, you know, development of certain characters, and,
Yep.
and I mean, most notably person related to Superman, you know, who doesn't even. I mean, our big players that you see throughout the marketing campaigns, Keaton and so on, like.
You see it in the in the poster that I put up. You know, they're putting it in all the posters. It's Flash, it's Batman from Michael Keaton, and it's Supergirl. Yeah, and like there's no escaping that in the marketing. So so you know all of that is coming. Yeah, like that's the thing.
That's where I don't want to spoil anything,
really
but it
boned,
takes its time to get there.
Yeah, the movie boned itself by showing as much as it did, because you're just waiting for these moments. Right, exactly. Yeah, the fact, again, not a spoiler because it was shown in multiple trailers, the fact that now Flash has to deal with the Zod of it all, sans Superman. But they show that there's another super instead, so like it's just a matter of watching how the trailers actually play out. Yeah, and so it is a bummer. It is a bummer.
Yeah, and the fact that all the toys were announced beforehand, so you kind of knew certain
Well, we don't need to talk about that. Not everyone knows about the toys. I didn't know about the toys. Okay. So, but
well, I didn't say
no. I know. I'm just saying. Let's be careful. Let's be careful. But that's the story, and how the story plays out is interesting to me. I will say that the very, very end of the movie did actually surprise me and make me laugh and smile in a big, big way because it was completely unexpected. But it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. Because I will say that the Flashpoint comic series is what preceded the entire DC Comics line to relaunch into the New 52. Yeah. So Flashpoint was the end of all DC Comics history since 1982 or 84 or 86.
Since what, Crisis?
When John Byrne relaunched Superman. Yeah. That was the new modern era of DC. And then Frank Miller came in and did Dark Knight, and so everything became darker. But that was the DC universe until Flashpoint relaunched into the New 52. Like, Flashpoint was when Barry set everything back, he created the New 52. Okay. So he didn't actually set everything back.
I still have that.
It's still not. Barry never got back to his original universe in the comics, and I'm not going to say if that happens in this movie or not.
So is it
but
like
that's what
I
happened in the
got
comics.
Close, but it's not exactly the same.
Right. Well, that's the thing. They take liberties, and I'm not spoiling what liberties they took. So trust me, I'm still not spoiling anything. But the movie just it played out in a well enough fashion, and I did like certain things that happened, but it just ultimately wasn't as satisfying as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, man, because I had massive anticipation, especially with like just Keaton coming back as someone similar to Batman 89, but not quite the same, as you find out, with a couple revelations here and there and whatever. Because it's still a different timeline, right? So it's not even that timeline.
That's the thing.
It's one
No,
similar.
that may be what Barry ran into. That may be the evolution of the Batman 89 timeline.
I see.
That's the thing. Like, because there was one thing tying it directly into Batman 89, and it was the... That, you remember what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So, so nonetheless...
Yeah,
It's interesting. It's going to be fun for the debate that it'll create. I will say that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, story-wise, was it satisfying for you?
I mean, moderately. I mean, that's really the best that I can say.
Yeah.
And I've been wowed with some of the compelling storytelling of things like Across the Spider-Verse and even the third Guardians film. And so it just didn't hit me on all of the different emotional levels that I was expecting it to.
It's the most emotional DC movie yet.
In a while, sure. Definitely a love line.
Which one would you say would be more emotional than that?
I love Man of Steel, dude. I know you don't like that take on Superman, but
I tell you what, I had a better reaction out of the first Shazam movie.
Really?
Because that gave me joy. Yeah. The first Shazam movie gave me legitimate joy.
You and I were like jubilation after we walked out.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't had that from a DC movie before or after.
And that is one thing that I will say. Whereas this is kind of a love letter to the Snyderverse in some ways, it also
in a lot of ways.
It also has the levity and attempted humor of like when Whedon took over Justice League in some ways,
which is not a great thing for a lot of people, right? Yeah. Considering the Snyder Cut was far superior,
in my estimation,
and a lot of people see that the Joss Whedon of it all was the superficial.
What's your superpower? Oh, I have
you
money.
know?
I'm rich. You know, that's my
Superficialication.
Yeah.
Right. But, okay, so let's talk about the acting,
Yeah.
right? So we have Ezra Miller, and let's just address the elephant in the room. Of course, Ezra Miller has had a completely ridiculous past couple of years while this movie has been in post-production and
They were
production.
not allowed to talk at the premiere, which was a big
They were
thing.
allowed
There
to
was
give... Well, they
was
introduced the movie
yeah,
very
there was
briefly.
a prepared statement,
Right,
right?
prepared
Yeah.
statement. And that was it. No free ball in it. And it was a blink and you'll miss it appearance on the red carpet. Right? But, you know, and understandably... And here's what I would say. While I think Ezra did a good job in certain scenes, they brought the emotion in certain scenes that I was surprised by, and actually in quite a few scenes.
There's one in the third
But there was
act that
also a
actually tears me
version
up.
of Ezra Miller that was the really annoying fucking version from the past movies that I didn't like.
Yep.
I am not a fan of this version of Barry. I will say that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I watched the first 6 seasons of Grant Gustin's Barry on the Flash TV show. Maybe it's because I'm a Wally West fan. Or maybe it's just because Ezra is not right for the role, in my opinion. Whatever the case may be, I wasn't the biggest fan of him in a lot of ways.
I'm there with your
I
last
liked him in
sentiment, man.
certain ways. And the emotional scenes are what made me like Ezra in this role.
Yeah, there's
everything else made me not like Ezra in this role.
I agree. There's a scene in the third act that actually did tear me up near the end of the film.
Yes.
It genuinely teared me
Me
up.
too.
And yet, yeah, the quirky, humorous sort of stuff, especially early in the movie, you know. And
It's the
like
same shit in Justice League and
Yeah.
was he in Batman v Superman? I can't remember. No,
not in
but
that.
it's the same stuff when he like
That's what I said.
cameos or just barely has anything to do, where he's like jokey joke and then rushes off, and
Yeah.
I didn't.
And that's where I feel like
That's
as
not
a
Barry.
supplemental sort of, and that's where I don't have any understanding of the character.
That's
really.
not Barry.
Yeah. And so
It's
he's
funny.
kinda-
We're right here, and I have the comics right here actually,
I'm gonna-
because I'm covering the comics on the TikTok for my comic book store. So
nice.
this is issue number 1. Here, I'll just show you guys the issues. So that's,
Okay, so this is a Barry Allen. It's not.
it's
Wally
a Barry
West.
Allen story, right?
Okay.
And then that is issue number 2. There's a electric chair,
Ah,
which yeah,
that's a cool cover.
Damn. There's Barry, Cyborg, and Batman, and then there's Barry and Aquaman and Wonder Woman, who were at war in this comic. And then issue number 5, and I think this is the best cover for issue number 5. And so that
Who's
was
the other guy? Is
end.
it like
That's
Anti-Flash or
reverse
Reverse
Flash.
Flash?
Yep,
Okay.
Reverse Flash.
Okay.
Professor Zoom.
Yeah.
Eobard
So
Thawne.
I mean, as far as our lead goes, I found that they were kind of lacking. I thought Ezra was a little lacking in said regard. And also another disappointment for me was the fact that I didn't really feel like a lot of these other, you know, like supporting characters, most notably Keaton and the actress who played Supergirl, really had much
I
time.
really liked Supergirl.
I loved
But
Supergirl.
she was still very
She was
much a
given-
Snyderverse Supergirl. There was
as far
there
as
was
like
still
her darkness.
yes,
and
right,
everything.
right.
Yeah,
I'm not
she
wrong.
was.
Right?
You're
You
not
felt
wrong.
the same thing.
I was into it though, you know. But
Although
that's
she
just
did
me
remind
personally.
me of a young Jessica Alba, and so I was
little bit, with
very
the haircut.
much
Yeah.
and those
Idle hands.
She's got particularly pronounced lips like Jessica Alba, and she's very
Love Jessica
very
Alba,
easy
man.
on
Dark
the eyes.
Angel. If you guys haven't watched that short-lived show, she's really,
I
really
have
great
I
in
have
that.
both seasons on
Yeah,
DVD.
yeah,
Believe
really,
it or not.
really good show. But yeah, so it just didn't give enough like meat for those proverbial supplemental characters to chew upon, in my estimation. Like I wanted more from
Agreed.
the Keaton Batman once you finally got to him.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more from even the father, and that one of the biggest missed opportunities for me was that I didn't feel the resonance of the lost mother aspect as
Right.
much as I thought. Like, it's the driving force of the entire film, right? The motivation of him going back in the first place. And yet, I didn't feel like there was enough scene, like, I don't know, enough screen time, really, for
There wasn't.
between him
No,
and his
you're
mother
not
to
wrong.
make it resonate. So,
No, because yeah, they didn't set it up right. They really didn't. I feel like this movie was
there's like one flashback. and
yeah,
that's
no,
it.
and it didn't really even set things up as well as it could have. Like there should have been a lot more. There should have been some history of Barry. I will say I didn't feel the runtime.
I didn't either.
2 hours and 35 minutes, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel a
either.
lick of it
I didn't even
being
check
long.
my phone once, man.
Not a
you know?
single time.
Yeah,
I was
so
in
that
it the
was-
whole time.
yeah,
So
I was too.
they did that well, and so much so that I feel like I wouldn't have minded an extra 10 minutes of a little backstory
For
leading
some more
into
development.
everything
Yeah.
else, right? For more
Yeah.
development. Because those were the strongest moments of the movie, and they got the shortest shrift, and that's a bummer to me.
Also, you know what I wanted a little bit more of, because I could tell he was kind of having fun revisiting the role. I liked Affleck in this.
Yeah.
Affleck is a pretty good Bruce Wayne, dude.
Yeah,
and
he's pretty
it ju-
fun.
Yeah. I enjoyed that scene specifically where he's just like, oh, peace out. I don't want to get dinner with you.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
No,
So,
Affleck was really good. It was great to see Jeremy Irons come back. You know?
yes, that was a
fun
big
thing.
big surprise. Him as Alfred. Yeah.
Oh shit! I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not been in the thing, but you saw Ben Affleck. I mean,
It's in the first act of the movie.
you
guys.
expect it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
expect it.
You assume he's going to have that sort of supplemental aspect. So.
And there may be even more cameos that we're not going to spoil.
Oh, there's a ton we're not going to spoil, but, you know, whatever.
But yeah, so let's talk about the filmmaking of it. Andy Muschietti, or Muschietti, I don't know.
Muschietti,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Him and his brother?
He did a really great job. The issue that I have
Was
is
it the
that
effects?
yes,
Really?
fucking yes, dude. The
Because when
effects
I was
held
praising,
back the
praising
filmmaking
earlier, you were just like, "Whoa,
I did,
boy."
yeah, because, well, first off, there's a couple scenes in particular. A very early scene was very questionable effects-wise. Like, I'm talking...
we were actually privy to some information that they were still working on the effects, like, after the CinemaCon.
This was supposed to be the
screening,
finished
so-
version. The movie comes out Friday. This is supposed to be the finished version. And,
Well,
like...
you know about working right up until the very
I'm just
deadline
saying,
of, like,
look,
tinkering with things.
There
right?
was something that was very reminiscent of the very first CG dancing baby.
Oh, God. The one from Ally McBeal?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, and like, I was like, really? And then I have
I
to
thought
say,
those scenes were fun, honestly.
the time travel aspects.
I didn't like those.
No, like,
Yeah.
why make that call where that's like all CG,
It
but
was
it's
like
not.
it was like hamster ball kind of thing.
Oh,
you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, I got the idea that they were going for, but it was overly convoluted and confusing. And so, like,
And
I don't know.
Unfortunately, when you
So
saw
I'm
Spider-Verse do
kind
it so
of-
much better. It's
So
just like-
I liked the filmmaking, I liked the angles, I liked the visual storytelling
Yeah,
outside of the effects.
yeah, the work with his DP.
Some of the
I thought
effects was
really-
good, or were good, but some of them were so questionable. And I will say this: they made a fundamental change in the presentation of Barry's running in super speed that made zero sense.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have
Zero
context
sense.
of comparison there, unfortunately.
Well,
but-
in the TV show, you saw his legs doing this, and like at some point, and you can see it
TV's
in the
got a
trailer.
way lower budget too.
You
which
can
is
see it
what's
in the
funny.
trailer. At some point when he's running, he looks like he's ice skating, where his strides are so much bigger than they would be. Flash isn't suddenly taking really big steps. He's just taking a lot of really fast steps. And that's not what they presented. It was more of like an ice skating thing as the world whipped past him. And it didn't feel realistic.
Which
to
is
me.
why they rightfully have a scene where they kind of make fun of it, where he's trying to run after he's lost his
Yeah,
powers.
yeah. Well, I mean, they were making fun of the way he runs,
Yeah, yeah.
which has always been a questionable thing that people have made fun of since
Lots
Justice
of people
League.
have talked smack
But
about Ezra's
I'm just
running
saying,
style and said
I did not like. I think the effects were a detriment to this film in a big bad way. A big bad way.
Okay.
You don't agree?
I'm kind of mixed on it, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, just because of the fact that, I mean, those are more
The
like...
baby shower scene, without spoiling.
I thought it was funny, honestly. It didn't look real at all.
Not at
but-
all.
Which they revisit in the end credits with the dog, too. You know, so
And I'm
I
thinking,
thought that,
based on how
I
I,
thought it
just
was-
described it, when people hear that line in the movie, they're going to go, ah, they're not going to anticipate what I'm talking about.
I actually really liked that scene. I thought it was really hilarious
Outside of the
because
effects,
it
it
was
was
played for
great.
laughs. It was played for laughs.
Yeah,
So for that reason, the fact
but
that it was
but the effects
cartoonish,
were so cartoony.
deliberately
It was a
cartoonish in my
goddamn
estimation.
Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Yeah,
this movie
well,
was.
dude, they even reference it at one point, right? You know, Speedy Gonzalez, don't they reference
You're
it
right.
at one particular
You're
point?
right.
So
They
yeah,
do.
they're kind of wearing those influences on their sleeve. You know, one thing that I was going to ask you is that
they should call him the position he starts his run at. They should call him the fucking flamingo, not the
hide this.
Flash. because he like starts with one leg up like a freaking. Like, it's so ridiculous.
I thought
like,
that
I don't know why they would let your lead look so silly.
I thought that was totally deliberately silly, and I did not understand why.
Right.
Yeah,
you want to make your hero look cool.
It was figure skater pose, like, sort of thing, and I thought it was very peculiar.
Yes. Well, that's the point. They make him skate.
Yeah.
Like, the Flash doesn't skate on the surface of the planet. He runs really fast.
Effects-wise, what I was going to ask you, though, totally, like shifting gears real quick, is that, so... There were certain combat scenes with both iterations of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like how CG heavy they went with the jumping around and the fighting?
I didn't mind
and the
it.
agility
I mean,
and all
you know
that
that
stuff
Michael Keaton can't do that.
Neither
stuff
can Ben
anymore.
Affleck, dude.
Neither can Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
That's what I liked. I will say I watched this scene and I was like, okay, because I really liked Batman's representation in the Snyder movies.
Yeah.
Like, they made him look badass and merciless
Tough and
stuff.
gritty, you know.
Yeah, well, but not just that, but in the action there was impact,
Mm-hmm.
and I will say they gave that same impact
Yeah.
to the Michael Keaton Batman, and I loved seeing that.
I did
He
too.
wasn't quite as vicious as the Ben Affleck
Affleck's
Batman,
version, yeah.
but he was just as impactful
Yeah.
and deliberate with his movements.
Mm-hmm.
I loved, like, there was one particular action scene that he's given a moment to shine, and I loved watching that action scene.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, I did too. And so once again, I mean, I feel
So
like
it is a mixed bag.
yeah, I feel like Keaton was still
FX-wise.
underrepresented in said regard, but hey, you know, it's still it's
And
a Flash
can you believe
movie.
it's
a Flash
been like
movie.
30 years?
Yeah.
Because when was Batman Returns? Because
Batman Returns was 92.
92, yeah. So 31 years
Yeah.
it's been, and he just shot last year, so it was definitely
Mm-hmm.
30 years since he shot the movie and shot a Batman role, and he did a great job.
He did.
I do wish that the trailers had not spoiled certain lines. You know, you want to get nuts, let's get
some of
nuts.
the retread lines.
That would have been great
yeah.
if it wasn't in the trailers, because it's like, why are we pandering
And
to
that's
nostalgia so much?
Yeah.
But if it had been presented in the movie for the first time, we would have been like, oh,
Yeah, because there were a few like there were moments in our early screening theater where people were cheering.
There was a moment that I cheered,
Yeah.
and I was and I will claim credit for this. So at some point, they do something that a lot of people, like myself, were hoping to see. I'm not going to spoil what it was, but there was something that happened that I guessed before everyone around me.
Myself included.
Something was happening, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. And then,
Sure
like,
enough.
within 30 seconds, there's a reveal. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
It's
that
not,
was really
it's
fucking
not
awesome.
Batman related, but
No, it's a
yeah.
really, really awesome crowd pleasing moment. And me being a fan of not just the lore of the comics, but the lore of the movies about the comics.
Yeah.
Like, let me just say this: John
How
Schnepp
can we
would have loved this
yeah,
movie.
Rest peacefully, man.
Right?
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
Stuff. No, oh, he would have.
He would have
He
gone
made a whole
bonkers.
He made a whole movie about it.
Would have gone bonkers.
Yeah.
So anyway, effects wise for you, I mean,
Once again,
you didn't
as
have
I
the
said,
issues.
As I said, mixed bag. Yeah. I think we've touched on it enough.
Well, the
would say.
filmmaking though,
The
I mean,
filmmaking,
we kind of skipped
dude.
over that
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I think Muschietti and his DP put together a very graceful film as far as some of the camera work, the transitions, and everything of that nature. Some of the shot selections. Like, he has a knack for action, which I was not necessarily expecting because of the fact that, I mean, he did Mama with Chastain, and then he did the 2 It films, and so this is definitely, and he's doing Brave and the Bold now, from what I understand.
Cool.
That's his follow-up to this with the gun regime, and so...
Oh, is that going to be Barry and Batman? I mean, that's what the
not
Brave
sure.
and the Bold was.
That's-
Brave and the Bold was the Flash and Batman.
Okay, well, yeah, that's apparently, he has
Or
locked
actually,
up...
no, it was the Flash and Green Lantern.
Well, he's locked up the follow-up. That's his next DC project, apparently.
It's been a couple
Yeah.
of things, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, so that is what Andy's doing next, and he has shown that, like, you know, both of the It films I was quite a big fan of, and, you know, I like the lower budge sort of thing with Jessica Chastain and Mom and whatnot, but yeah, he has shown that he is a very capable, big budget, tentpole sort of filmmaker, and I'm very happy for him in that regard, and, you know, Maybe something with a little deeper story next time. We'll see. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like when he gets a chance to focus on characters a little bit more as well. This one you could
Which
tell
he really
was
did
just,
with the kids in the first part of it.
right.
know?
I felt like he was just kind of constrained by the fact that he needed to get this, and this done in the movie, and so there wasn't time to focus on this, and this.
Yeah.
That kind of situation. And it's a bummer, but it was still a entertaining, crowd-pleasing movie. And again, there's some things that we can't talk about that I did enjoy, especially at the very, very end.
Yeah.
I thought, not the, there is a post-credit scene, which...
It's not a noteworthy one.
It's not a noteworthy one.
Yeah, despite the fact that they encouraged
The
us to
scene
stick
at the
around
very
for
end
it.
of the movie is much more noteworthy.
I agree.
And way more interesting and hilarious. Like, that scene got the most...
Yeah.
That scene got the biggest response of the whole movie. And it was awesome.
Yeah,
well, that's not true. I don't know. The scene that I called first...
Keaton, when they first saw Keaton, as far
but
as
everyone
crowd
expected
reaction.
that.
Yeah.
There was two things that the crowd did not expect. The thing I reacted to first, and then the very end scene.
Yeah.
Where, when that happened, I was like, whoa!
Clarification about who somebody is in this.
It's so
revamped.
funny. It's so funny.
It's very funny. And that's, despite my derision, I had fun with this movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
did too.
I'm not going to sing its praises on the mountaintops or anything,
No.
but I enjoyed it, and it's definitely worth a theater visit, especially if you're into that Snyderverse incarnation of DC, which is all about to be rebooted.
All those movies are kind of similar for me. I mean, I don't
agree.
know that I would
agree.
put it... I don't know. I think the best one is probably the first Wonder Woman. I really liked Man of Steel, even though I really didn't like aspects of Man of Steel. I think it's the best Snyderverse DC movie. I really loved Shazam.
I like the ultimate cut of BVS. I really like the
That
ultimate
movie
cut
still
where you
sucks. The
where
ultimate
you
cut still
focus on the
sucks.
Cavill stuff and
The Snyder cut of Justice League, while it's better, it's still not a great movie.
I'm not a big fan of it.
I guess I would like Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Man of Steel the best, and then probably
the
Flash,
introductory stuff.
the Flash after that. Although, no, I really liked Aquaman. The first Aquaman was dope as hell. Dude, I loved that movie.
And apparently the sequel...
I mean, The Flash might be top 5, top 6, but it's not tops for me.
No, not all for me.
It wasn't the Spider-Man No Way Home for me.
Yeah, not at all. It's going to be interesting what happens with this final Aquaman film, which pretty much closes out this iteration of
Right,
the
and then
DC
Blue Beetle is like
stuff on
the
film.
launch of the new stuff, supposedly.
Yeah. Which
Although we don't know who's like Peacemaker is supposed to still be happening too.
Yeah, there's some intermediary sort of stuff that's kind of going on, I guess, with stuff that can be carried over and stuff that will not. I mean, hey.
Well, Blue Beetle is a Boogeyman situation where it was supposed to go to streaming.
I do
and
remember
that. People decided to put it
and
in
it tested well and whatnot.
theater.
I mean, the only thing we didn't really touch upon, I guess, is music and sound and whatever.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple Chicago songs that I had fun seeing in there, but
the score is okay. The score has some cool moments, but the sound design, it was fine. I mean, it did the job, but I wasn't blown away by it overall. Like it just.
Especially since we were in the specialty Dolby theater too. I mean, you always can tell when stuff is really programmed in just sort of a crazy manner where it makes it more of an experience in comparison with just your regular segmenting of everything and the panning. So I don't know. I had fun with some of the popular music selections, but that's about it.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's going to pretty much cover the non-spoilery aspects of this movie. We were debating whether or not we wanted to do a spoiler review, but honestly, there's not enough to really talk about to necessitate that, in my opinion. Plus, we're a horror channel. We can get away with one non-horror review of the movie.
Every now and again.
Probably shouldn't do a separate spoiler thing. So, with that being said, there's a couple of things that are we want to talk about and just mention briefly here at the end. So, if you've watched this far, spoilers. We're going to touch on a couple of things at this point.
One of which is actually horror related because of what it entails, like a big ass spider.
That's true. Yeah. So okay. Well, we're already into it. Yeah. So spoiler territory, but yeah, at one point towards the end of the movie, we do start to get glimpses at the DC multiverse, which is represented strangely, in my opinion. Like, the
Those
other
differently
worlds,
colored
the other
orbs.
universes, right? They are represented by spinning globes, but they're wire framed in color, right? So there's like green grid, like the green planet is a green grid, and then as you get closer, you see a particular hero that they're focusing on, and the first couple of them you see, like there's a big blue planet, and they zoom in and you see that it's the Christopher Reeve Superman and the Supergirl from that series.
from the early 80s movie.
Yep.
That they did.
They're standing there looking back through the rip in time.
Yeah, obviously it's like a CGI, like Rogue One recreating a Princess Leia and Tarkin sort of situation, but still, I mean, not
exactly.
bad.
And then through another tear, Barry sees another world that, as he gets closer, you see a giant spider fighting a Superman from behind. And as soon as I saw the giant spider, I said out loud, I was like, that's the Kevin Smith one. Because Superman Lives was the title of the Kevin Smith Superman script
which
that
Tim
he
Burton
wrote,
was gonna
which
direct
Tim Burton was going to
after
direct,
Batman Returns,
and it was going to star Nicolas Cage as a long-haired Superman, because Superman had just come back. He was long-haired after being dead, and when you see, I saw the giant spider, I saw the Superman from behind fighting, he had long hair, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be Nicolas Cage. And like you see his eyes blast through the spider, and you see real quick his face, and I was like, I knew it was him. But they don't do a full reveal until he totally destroys the spider, and then the camera pans around and you see a floating Nicolas Cage, long-haired Nicolas Cage Superman just staring down at you, and I was like, that's so fucking cool.
It's pretty satisfying that they did that, man. I thought that was a nice nod.
It was awesome. I mean, just the fact that it's a movie that never got made has its own universe.
Yeah.
I loved that. I absolutely loved that. Yeah. Now, I was curious, since we're in the spoiler territory, the thing that started Barry down this path was the fact that when he was trying to change things, a mysterious and malevolent looking force knocks him out of his speed time bubble into the reality where he meets the other Barry that you see in the trailer.
Now, is that a character from the comics?
It's very similar to.
Okay.
There's a number of times that a bad speedster has showed up. More than once, but at least once, that bad speedster is revealed to be a future version of Barry that has lost everything.
Interesting.
Yes, and so when I saw the character at the beginning and I saw he was a blue speedster, I remembered the trailer, and I remembered that the other Barry has blue lightning behind him. And so I was like, oh, that's going to be the other Barry. I guarantee the other Barry is going to turn into that.
Which
and then did you notice, as soon as he got this, did you realize
that it was him?
That it was going to be him?
I did not.
No? Even when he got the... every time he came back, he had a new spike.
Yeah, when that happened.
When that started happening, you realized?
That's when I made the correlation.
So, basically the other Barry that he finds in the other universe that he accidentally gives powers to, that Barry ends up turning into the villain that caused everything to begin with. So that was an interesting scene, though, when they revealed it, because I was surprised that it still caught so many people off guard. As soon as I saw him when he first threw Barry out of the time bubble, I was like, oh, that's going to be the other Barry, I guarantee it. But nonetheless, it was still a fun reveal to see happen on screen. And then let's talk about the final scene.
That's the one that I really wanted to
mention. So of course we see Batman in the beginning of the movie when Barry hasn't left his world yet, that it is indeed Ben Affleck Batman.
Exactly. Then so the Snyderverse Batman.
The Snyderverse Batman, complete with Alfred. And then he goes to the alternate timeline where it is Michael Keaton Batman, right?
As a long-haired, grizzled beard and
at
everything.
First, right, at first. And then he ends up fixing things, quote unquote, and he gets back to his world where Iris is waiting for him and wanting to date him still. So
and
everything
he's also
with
about
him.
To see his father exonerated.
Yeah, he actually did see his father
awesome.
Exonerated because of another thing that he decided to change. So what that basically means is that he didn't learn shit from changing things the first time. He still changed something, and he just lucked out this time.
Yep, because he didn't put the tomatoes in the
right spot. So he basically made his father look up in a security cam, which frees his father.
Yeah.
Right afterwards, he gets a call from Bruce Wayne.
Now this is where, when I turned to you when this was about to happen, because I knew it was not going to be...
I thought it was going to be Michael Keaton.
I thought it was actually going to be Bale.
Oh, okay.
I really did. That's where, when I turned to you and I was just like...
That would have been cool.
I was like, are they going to do it? Are they
That
really
would've
going to
been
do
cool.
it?
Or Pattinson would have been cool, too.
Shit.
That would have been a good way to bring him into the Batman universe, but...
Interesting. Yeah, but, I mean, they wanted to go with an older one because the mentor role...
So please, let everyone know. So he gets a call from Bruce when he answers. Bruce says, like, two things. He's like, Barry? And then, like, I was like, wait, it sounded like Keaton.
Yeah.
It sounded like Keaton. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be Keaton.
I was wondering if it was going to be Bale the whole goddamn time.
But nonetheless, he's
it's
like,
obviously
okay, I'm
not
pulling
going to
up.
be Kilmer because of his affliction.
And so, out of the car that Ben Affleck got into earlier, steps, of course, George Clooney.
Yeah,
The George Clooney Schumacher Batman.
Batman and Robin.
He walks up and is talking to Barry, where the whole theater went, what? Like, it was the most unexpected thing.
I think it was similar colossal
possibly
disappointment to me, where I was hoping it was going to be Bale.
But still, it was. I loved it.
I did too.
If I had thought about it being Bale, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
But and Pattinson would have made even more sense if they wanted to bring Ezra into the new world.
But he's supposed to be resetting everything.
Well, and that Batman is supposed to be separate from the James Gunn Batman.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be like the Elseworld sectioning of
right,
stuff that they're
right.
doing.
That's what they're calling it. And,
because
and I mean,
there's going to be another Batman in Brave and the Bold. It's going to be. It's
Right.
not going to be Pattinson.
Right.
It's going to be someone different.
So I could see them keeping Ezra as a Elseworlds Flash. I really don't want him to be the new Flash.
A lot of people don't want it to happen, but Andy Muschietti said recently
he did. He was like, "I'm sticking by my actor."
He was like, "Yeah, if we're doing another Flash movie,
I don't think we
this
need
one
Ezra.
is successful."
I would rather see it. I would rather see Wally first of all, but you can't really get to Wally without Barry. It's like you can't get to Nightwing without Dick Grayson being Robin.
Yeah.
And then you can get to Tim Drake being Robin, and then you can get to Damian Wayne being Robin.
Drake was
but
our
the Brave and the
Robin,
Bold is going to have Damian Wayne as Robin, so they are skipping that in the Gunn universe.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing. Like I imagine Ezra. We may not revisit Ezra for a while, but they will bring Ezra back in some future. Because multiverses are money right now.
Of course.
Dude, multiverses are such money. Between Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse now, and now this.
All Sony.
This is going to make a ton of money.
Stephen King was doing the multiverse long before everybody else. But
no, that's not true. There was multiverses in comics in the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
Multiverses were in comics long before anything else. But
stand
that might not be true either. I'll bet there was some fiction writers, some novel writers back in the day that were like, I talked about multiverses before comics even.
Yeah, probably.
In the 1800s and shit. You know what I mean?
Or like Asimov in the early 1900s.
Right. We're talking out of our buttholes.
Yes, we
right
are.
now. But nonetheless, so that's going to do it, I think, for our review of The Flash. Wow, that was a long, meandering review.
We did end up talking a lot about it. And once again, I'm not like denouncing this movie or anything. It was fun. It just kind of feels a little bit like a missed opportunity in some ways.
I agree. It was a bit of a missed opportunity. So
and you know what? If Ezra's performance was amazing in this, maybe I would be okay with a return. But it wasn't in my estimation. And so there's no reason to carry a flag for, as Muschietti has been saying, for the return of them playing the character at some point. I don't think it's ultimately necessary.
No, so. I agree. I agree. So there you go, guys. That's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And make sure you check out the review of The Blackening that I put up just a couple of days ago. If you want to watch a good, funny horror comedy, that is the one to go to. But if you guys did watch The Flash, I would be very curious to know y'all's thoughts in those comments down below. Thank you very much. Again, until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.